Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hobart begins now.
Good evening. A former senior state servant who was named repeatedly in a landmark report into child sexual abuse but escaped reprimand has been thrust into the Parliament spotlight. The government's promise to act on the Commission of Inquiry questioned, with some saying a lack of accountability for those in charge remains.
Faced with the mammoth task of implementing 191 recommendations and building criticism, the Premier made a plea.
This is the biggest and most important moment I see in this Tasmanian Parliament's history, frankly. And as leader of this state and as Premier, I take responsibility.
Questions continued about adverse findings the Commission wanted to make, but couldn't, often thanks to the state's lawyers.
There are some people who, it seems to me, are still outside the reach of accountability. And that's a deep concern.
Former Community Secretary Michael Purvan, one of 26 state servants to receive legal help from the state, mentioned hundreds of times in the final report no adverse findings were made against him.
The report says he provided the Commission with contradictory evidence. It documents a string of failures by him to address serious issues at Ashley.
I'm not aware of any further investigation.
The government and the Australian Health Practitioner Regulator have agreed to work towards sharing information about misconduct of employees, previously a barrier. The number of state servants suspended over allegations is routinely published, but not their department. That will now change,
with the first of such reports to be available towards the end of the week.
The Police Minister admitting the force's fault in the case of alleged pedophile police officer Paul Reynolds. The senior sergeant was given a guard of honour after his death by suicide while being investigated.
I don't think it's appropriate that Paul Reynolds should have received a state funeral, and I think it was the wrong decision. A Greens push for Parliament to return after the government makes its full response to the Commission of Inquiry report has been successful. After December 1, 2 days of estimate-style scrutiny hearings will be held before a further sitting day. The report's release is taking a toll. The Sexual Assault Support Service says it's dealt with more people reaching out for help, and they're preparing to deliver more education.
We have primary prevention programs that are ready to go. We want to roll those out in every school in Tasmania. We have amazing programs working in harmful sexual behaviours.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A woman who died alongside her grandson when their car ploughed into the back of a ute in Latrobe last year failed to brake before impact, according to a coroner. 68-year-old Eileen Murford and her 15-year-old grandson Lachlan Stones were killed on the Bass Highway after running into the tray of a stationary truck about to turn right. A report into their deaths couldn't determine why the driver didn't see the truck in time. It found that although it was dark, the weather and road conditions were good. An independent review is being set up following claims of bullying in the Office of Attorney General Elise Archer. The Australian today published claims that one former and one current staffer had made complaints to the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner. The Commission has notified the Premier, who said a matter had been raised with him, but that he couldn't comment any further. Those who won't make it to the MCG this weekend are busily preparing for one of the biggest days on the sporting calendar. Pubs, butchers and sports stores are all bracing for the chaos, while partygoers are being warned police will be out in full force.
Ball up on footy finals action.
Grand final, start of spring, everything starts rolling.
Frantic. Ever since Saturday morning, it's just been frantic.
Merchandise is flying out the door as more fans jump at the chance to don their team's colours.
Guernseys. Everyone wants a Guernsey. This is our 10th grand final in the shop and it is the busiest we've ever been.
Barbecues are heating up with a grand final day staple back on the menu.
Have to be the salves and the cocktail salves.
Butchers are busily stuffing snags, hoping to keep up with customer demand.
We doubled and tripled production.
Tasmanian pubs are also embracing the action, dusting off the glasses and firing up the screens, ready for the big dance.
It's a really good atmosphere. Hopefully we have equal amount Brisbane Lions and Collingwood supporters.
Cold beers on tap, staff promising to keep up with the pause.
We've ordered all the kegs and looking forward to hopefully a great game.
While Saturday is all about the sporting rivalries, police are putting partygoers on notice, warning they'll be out in full force.
Whatever you're doing, do it safely. Don't annoy anyone around you. Enjoy the day. Hopefully your team wins. And if you are drinking, make sure that you act responsibly.
Win or lose, Tasmanians are in for a good time. Victoria Easto, 7 Tasmania News.
A parliamentary inquiry into Marinus Link and other energy developments looks set to go ahead after unanimously passing the lower house. The motion from independent MHA John Tucker calls for a joint select committee to be established and would also examine energy supply challenges. Mr Tucker claims the government's shifting position on energy is a strong reason to apply scrutiny. The state government is being urged to act quickly as pay negotiations with public sector nurses continue. Staff at the Roy Fagan Centre stopped work this afternoon to receive an update on negotiations. The Health and Community Services Union is expecting a new offer in the coming weeks. While welcoming the news, officials believe it's taken too long.
Hoping that that new offer does actually do something towards pay parity for Tasmanian public sector nurses. We're awaiting that document, but the reality is the government should have presented that to Tasmanian nurses months ago.
A government spokesperson confirmed a formal offer will be provided to nurses in the near future. A leading Yes campaigner has continued his tour of Tasmania, this time stopping by Launceston's City Park. Thomas Mayo met with members of the community for a yarn in the park as ANMF Tasmania lends its support to the campaign, hoping to help close the gap in health outcomes.
They understand as well as anyone that when you listen to people and what their issues are, then you're going to get better outcomes in health. And it's one of the great reasons why we should be voting yes at this referendum.
We know there are significant gaps for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and their health outcomes, and it is time that we do, as a country, recognise that we need to listen.
Tasmanians will have their say in 16 days' time. Tasmanians have been asked to give feedback on the proposed new funding levy for Tasmania's Fire and Emergency Service. The government is proposing what it's calling fairer, simpler funding with 2 models put forward.
Currently, fire is funded by 3 different levies and 7 different funding streams. The SES has no provision under those levies as well.
The Fire Service Act reform also makes controversial changes to the department structure, which saw former Chief Officer Dermot Barry quit his role. A Tasmanian woman says she wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for a new clinic in Hobart. As World Heart Health Day approaches, we're all being urged to pay better attention to our hardest working muscle.
Michelle Sykes was a ticking time bomb, but she didn't know it. Living with chest pain during exercise, the issue got worse while on holiday in July.
I had a little rise to get to walk back to my cabin, and I was finding it harder and harder to make it back without that pain.
Michelle's GP didn't take any chances, sending her for a stress test at Calvary's new chest pain clinic. It found her main artery totally blocked.
I was really frightened, big mix of emotions actually. It's the first time I felt quite vulnerable.
Michelle had a situation where it was important to pick up what was going on and intervene to prevent complications.
Since opening in April, the clinic has assessed more than 100 patients. The bulk billed service usually sees people within 48 hours of referral.
Try and work out whether there is a problem that requires a more invasive assessment. Get them in a timely manner and work out if there's something more serious going on.
According to the Heart Foundation, cardiovascular disease causes 1 in 4 deaths, with 75% of Australians at risk, and it can be particularly perilous for women.
Up to 35% of women will die of cardiovascular disease.
Fitted with a stent, Michelle is back working and feeling better. She's urging people not to ignore the warning signs.
Go see your GP, get checked out, because you just don't know.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The The TSL Tribunal has come down hard on the players involved in a wild brawl that marred the final moments of the Development League Grand Final on Saturday. North Launceston's Jasper French was hit with an 8-match ban for intentionally striking North Hobart's Lachlan Payne. Maldives player Hugh Williams suffered the same fate for retaliating. Both French and Payne required treatment from medics. A Tasmanian talent has inked a new deal, seeing him stay aboard the cane train for another season. Mitch Owen has extended his current contract with the Hobart Hurricanes, meaning the homegrown all-rounder will stay put until at least 2025. Owen currently has 10 games in the purple under his belt and says he's excited for the season ahead. The Hurricanes campaign begins in Launceston on December 11. The Jack Jumpers have taken wing, heading to Perth for a blockbuster NBL season opener at one of the league's toughest venues. Wildcat star Bryce Cotton looms large, and players and coach say they can't put all their effort into stopping him at the expense of others.
The time for talking is done. The time to deliver begins. The Jack Jumpers going west today to open their season in front of a raucous Perth crowd. Rather than fear RAC Arena, the team is embracing the challenge.
Yeah, I think it's the best place you can start. One of the teams that has a legacy. I think it's a rival team for everyone, so it's a test for us.
Go on the road, build some more camaraderie and take it against a team who's had a long history of success.
Tasmania and the Wildcats both undefeated in the pre-season blitz. Players say getting the game on their terms will be key.
Gel on offense, everybody touch the ball, move, just make some good reads and put the ball in the basket.
Bryce Cotton stands in the way. Perth's star player scored points for fun during pre-season and remains the Wildcats' main attacking threat. But he's not the only one to be wary of.
Bryce is going to get his 15 to 25. We just want to make it as tough as possible, but obviously adding Keanu and their imports is going to be a tough challenge.
They got a bunch of other guys this year also that we have to lock in on.
One Jackie not making the trip is Will Magnay. The big man's still at least another 3 weeks away from taking the floor as he recovers from a foot injury.
We're taking it day by day, but his rehab's going well. He's in a good mental space, and when we get to that point, we'll reassess and see where he's at.
Tip-off is at 9:30 tomorrow night. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Today, Hobart 22, Launceston 18. 18 also in Devonport, Burnie 17 degrees. The state's top was recorded on Flinders Island with 23, St Helens and Maria Island 21, 19 in Grove and Bushy Park, Lyweenie 16, 15 for Low Head and Flinders Island, 14 was the top for King Island and Strawn with Luncheon Hill 12 degrees. We can see overcast low-level cloud across the west, Bass Strait, with patchy high-level cloud at times over the remainder of the state. The satellite shows a high-level cloud band to the west and south of Tasmania and associated with a weak cold front passing to the south of the Bight. Tomorrow, a broad area of high pressure is to the north and west of Tasmania, with a cold front pushing to the east coast of the state. West to northwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, reaching up to 35 knots in the south, with winds shifting south to southwesterly during the morning. West to southwesterly swells up to 4.5 metres in the west and south. A severe weather warning for damaging winds has been issued tomorrow for the Upper Derwent Valley, southeast and parts of Western Midlands, the east coast and central forecast districts. There is a gale warning for the Channel, southeast coast and southwest coasts. Also a strong wind warning for the Derwent Estuary, Frederick Henry, Norfolk, Storm Bay, the Central Plateau Lakes and Southwest Lakes, and also for waters between Stanley to Tasman Island. Winds will ease tomorrow in Hobart and Campania, both 17, showers easing and 17 also in Huonville. Launceston partly cloudy 22, partly cloudy also and 19 in Devonport. Winds easing and partly cloudy and 20 in Georgetown. Burnie 17 and partly cloudy, showers easing and 16 in Strawn. Wynyard partly cloudy and 19. St Helens becoming cloudy 20, 17 and cloudy for Port Arthur, and showery conditions easing 17's the top. The all-important forecast for the AFL Grand Final day on Saturday. Mostly cloudy with isolated showers about the northwest, extending to the west coast in the afternoon, otherwise fine. Sunday showers continue about the west, extending statewide during the morning, then easing and contracting to the west in the afternoon and evening. Monday fine until showers develop about the west late in the evening. Taking a look to the mainland tomorrow, Melbourne, Darwin, Sydney and Canberra all sunny conditions, partly cloudy in Brisbane and in Cairns. And currently across the state, it is mostly clear, 15 in Hobart, 14 in Launceston and 13 in Devonport. Murph is missing in action tonight, but he will return tomorrow night.
Very cheeky of him to have a night off. I hope he's got a good reason for that. Thanks you for that, Kaya. That's all your news for now. I will be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.